Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 166 of a year of change. Today, well, I don't have a lot, actually. Our timing is really good, though. There were a number of different news stories that were out this week, but nothing that really sort of applies to what we're doing. There was polio. Well, they say it's an outbreak, but there were 2 cases recorded in the Ukraine. There is a thing about wasp venom being treating cancer, so they're looking into that. There's a whole slew of stuff, and then a weird one where it says that goth people are more prone to depression, so I don't know if that's a chicken or the egg thing. But there was nothing that was really sort of food related except for a story that came out on Monday where it was just sort of it wasn't really a story, it wasn't really news, it was just sort of one of those things that happened to be related to what we're doing. Where we're sort of starting out this week, looking at our fat intake, trying to get that 30% number down. There was a little bit of a blurb on CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, their news channel, and on their website, saying, just sort of related to that, saying, well, here we go. Fat is not as bad as everyone thinks it is. And it talked about how we had discussed the day before on Sunday, how when they take fat out of something, they'll add in more sugar and more salt and more carbohydrates, apparently, as well. So, other than that, I don't really have a lot to provide for a story for this week, or any news or studies or things like that. I mean, there are a number of things out there that are related to what we've been talking about. This one just sort of jumped out because it was just the day after our week started. But in general, I mean, something like this isn't something that you can go and take a look at. And I mean, some of the subjects that we're going to be doing, or that we have been doing, there isn't always going to be something that you can say, well, look, here's proof and everything's related. Because normally with something like this, you would say, okay, well, there have been studies done here and here and here and here and here, and here are the results that they've had, and some are good, some are bad, and you'll be able to sort of make up your mind that way. But with this, it's something that's so simple for us, because you just simply go to the store, pick up a bag of cookies, and then pick up the low-fat cookies and flip them over and look at the difference. So it's something that's readily available for us, which is why I don't really have anything that can sort of be related to that. This story actually was just sort of a quick little, don't forget, fat isn't all bad sort of thing. But it's from a dietitian from the McMaster University in Ontario. I think it's in Toronto? I don't remember. It's in Ontario, anyway. And he's an actual dietitian, not a nutritionist. It's a dietitian and a professor as well. So he just sort of was explaining the same thing that we talked about at the beginning of the week. Just saying, if you're eating low-fat stuff compared to regular stuff, then it is going to cause problems. He does go on to say, though, that part of the problem as well, because, I mean, we addressed this on Sunday, too, is that we tend to eat more of it. I always just sort of assumed it was because we thought, well, there's not as much fat in it, so it's better for me. So we tend to eat more of those. But he said there's also, it's not as satisfying. If you eat 20 low-fat foods, because of how it's made, it's not really going to give you the same full feeling as 20 regular foods, I was going to say. Yeah. 20 of the regular type, whatever it is. They use chips in their version. But I tend to go for cookies because that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think regular and then low-fat. So, but anyway, I'm going to put a link in the description so that you can take a look at it. And it's just a quick little news article, and then there's a little 2-minute blurb at the bottom as well. But I just thought it was interesting that, our timing was that good, that when we first started this off, then there's just this that's related to it. So it's not just me saying, oh no, too much sugar instead of too much fat. Because, I mean, it's always good to get a second opinion. Even when we're looking at something like this and being able to go out and do your own research and things like that. But every now and then, it's nice to just have it handed to you like this. And someone saying, no, that's right. Low fat isn't necessarily better. It's only, there's a little 2 or 3 minute clip there as well. It just sort of goes back and says that, in the, I think It says in the 1950s, when this whole thing started, when they were saying, oh, fat is the enemy. And then in the 80s boom, when they started doing all the low-fat stuff, that's when all the problems started. Now, there are some, of course, anytime I go and look through anything like this, there's always the comment section. So you always go through there just to see how ridiculous things can get. And, of course, everyone's sort of picking one thing and saying, well, that's what's causing the problem, and this is what's causing the problem. And I think that sort of goes in line with what we've been doing, because this is never, I mean, although we've sort of simplified things and said we need to eat less and do more, which is just sort of, I think it's a good idea anyway, but it's a very broad generalization. There always seems to be that tendency for people to say, well, this is what you need to do. This is why we always have that, this is the one thing you need to do to lose belly fat, or this is the one thing you need to do in order to be able to exercise more and eat what you want and all this stuff. People seem to have a really hard time sort of, I don't want to say holding more than one idea in their head, because we sort of addressed that before, but recognizing that it's never going to be just one thing that's going to fix the problem. And there's always that tendency for people to say, well, you say that this is, but what about this? Usually it's in the vein of, how dare you be upset by this topic when there's so many worse things going on in the world, and they'll point to something else. And it's all right to be concerned about more than one thing at a time. So this is going to turn into a rant. It's sort of the same thing with our health. We can look at this and say, okay, number one, we need to balance out our diet. We need to eat, less sugar. We need to eat less salt. We need to eat less fat. We need to eat less of everything, really, for the vast majority of us. But we also need to exercise more. And then inevitably, someone's going to say, oh, yes, but what about genetics? I'm like, well, okay, there's not really a genetic thing that says, if you eat 1,000 calories a day, you're still going to be fat. And for those, I'm sure that there probably is, but for those that are hitting that, then obviously, then you need to go to a doctor. It's never going to be anything that just says, well, what about this? This is what we need to do to fix this problem. There are a myriad of things that we need to do. We need to balance out our diet. We need to eat fewer calories. We need to exercise more. We need to balance the amount of fat that we're doing and the types of fat that we're doing. We need to cut back on the sugar. I need to cut back on the salt. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still working on that. I need to lower the amount of sodium that I have. We need to curb our snacking habits so that we aren't eating, huge, just entire meals for our snacks. There are some people that will say, well, it doesn't matter when you eat. It's in the morning or at night. That doesn't seem to really matter. The amount of calories in or the amount of calories in. Then you have others that say, no, you need to have it at this time and this time and this time. You need to eat 6 tiny meals or 12 itty-bitty meals or just one big meal in the middle of the day. There are a bunch of different opinions that that people go through. There are a bunch of different bits of information that we need to go through. But overall, it's not going to be something that's going to be simple. It's something that we have to work at. It's something that we're going to have to try in numerous ways of, that didn't come out right. We have to try numerous things in order to find out what's going to work best for us. For me, it's tracking my food, making sure that I don't go over, making sure that I don't just sort of go, it's 100 calories, but I won't record it today. Making sure that I, track absolutely everything so I have an accurate picture of what I'm doing. I also need to combine that with exercise. I need to keep doing these videos. This is the only thing so far that has really kept me on track, is just that combination of things that's going to work for me. For some of you out there, it's going to be, trying different combinations of food and doing an exercise that you actually enjoy. For some of you, it's going to be you're just hitting the gym nonstop, and eventually your eating habits are going to sort of adjust to that. Some people are doing the protein powders and things like that, which is not for me because they probably taste gross. I've never really tried one, but bleh. So it's going to be different for everybody. But it's never going to be just one thing and that is ever going to come out and they're going to say, all right, this is it. If everyone does this, then everyone's going to lose weight. They're going to get to where they need to be and you'll be fine. I think in general, you could probably say if we ate properly, if we had a healthy, balanced diet and didn't overeat and introduced a lot more fruits and vegetables and had regular activity in our lives where we can burn off any excess that we don't need and people were more active, I think that's probably really the best way to, if you were going to simplify it, it's going to be those two things. But even then, even if for us to just do a sort of a very broad generalization and say, okay, this is what you need to do: balanced diet, proper exercise, which, let's face it, has been really the prescription for a very, very, very long time. But we seem to have a really hard time, accepting that, because we still want to eat all the nachos and the chips and the cookies and the cakes. And let's face it, exercise makes you tired and sweaty and gross, and it's boring. We don't want to do it. So I think part of that is just because we just want something right now. We want it fixed. We don't want to really have to work at it. And unfortunately, the hard truth is we do have to work towards it. But I didn't mean for this to turn into a lecture. This was originally supposed to be a quick little news item. But okay, we're going to keep these very, very short. So anyway, that's, I don't want to sort of keep going and... But anyway, yeah, I don't know where I'm going from here. That's it. I'm going to think of to wrap things up. All right. Anyway, I'm going to put a link in the description below, so you can go in and take a quick little look at the news blurb. Normally I'll try to do like 2 or 3 related things with it. Like if it's one story, I'll generally try to put it in from 2 or 3 different sources and things like that. But where this is just sort of saying, yep, we're on the right track, then it's just the one little thing. And it's a very small blurb. There are other links that you can go through as well, but it's for the CBC News site, so you can go up and take a look at that. Other than that, I don't have much for you. This has been a really odd week, prep-wise, trying to find stuff to just sort of be related to what we've been doing. But hopefully, things will get a little bit better. Tomorrow, though, normally I know that we have documentaries, but tomorrow, because I keep forgetting, tomorrow's going to be story time. So we aren't going to do a documentary tomorrow. We could do one on different fats and things like that, which we should really be doing. And I should do is maybe I'll do a story for Saturday. Maybe that's what I'll do. Ignore what I just said. We're going to do a regular one. We'll do a fat documentary. Because we need to sort of stay on target and on topic. The fat thing is sort of one of those things that it's not as crucial, I think, as the sodium or the sugar. Because for the majority of us, because of how we've been eating, our numbers are probably fairly all right. It's just a matter of getting the proper fats in there. So once we have the number in, then we can start tweaking it back and forth and figuring out what we need to do. This has been a horrible video all the way through, and I do apologize. But at the end of the day, we have a little bit of a news item. Not a real major study or anything, but just something that you can take a look at. And, obviously, as I say, the information is out there that you can go to. Whether it's just on the back of a cookie jar, whether it's on the back of a bag of cookies or a bag of chips or, any product, pick one. It doesn't really matter. Anything that you have, a regular one and then a low-fat one, you can take a look, and it's not just simply a matter of them cutting out half the fat, because then they know it tastes like poop, and they need to fix it, so they have to dump in a bunch of other stuff in there. It sounds very sinister. I don't mean for it to come across as them going, okay, we need to hide everything from people. But, in a way, they understand that there's the low-fat part, which is horrible, so they need to fix it. But it's just something that we just don't think of because it's not on the forefront. They had a big sign on it that said, low-fat, and then directly underneath that said, but we've added in a bunch of sugar and salt and everything else to make it taste better. Then we might be a little more wary. But anyway, it's out there. So I'm going to keep this very, very short because we ran long quite a bit over the past week or so. So I'm going to leave this one here. I'm rambling on, and I've done 5 exits. Sorry. Anyway, go up, take a look, put a link in the description below. I'm repeating myself. So I'm going to leave this video here, so thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.